I guess we'll go ahead and call the meeting to order at 9:07 a.m. And noting that Tanley and Connie are not here for this meeting. On our agenda, I have some housekeeping stuff in the beginning. Then we'll look at the minutes from last meeting and hopefully adopt those. And then we'll get into some of the stuff that I had outlined in one of my recent emails as far as looking at leadership nominations, committee organization, sort of vision and goals. If we want to, we can talk briefly, I think, about mission, vision, values, brand, but I'd rather that we kind of set a sort of high level direction for that, and then maybe let, like, for example, the promotions committee really get into that discussion, if there is one to be had, and then make a recommendation back to this board for consideration and approval. And I hope that that's why a lot of things will work with this board, by the way, is that you guys will kind of decide which direction you want to go and then kick it down to the committee level for them to really work through, and then bring it back to the board for some sort of final decision. We'll schedule our next meeting and then hopefully determine a more regular meeting schedule, so it's not just a doodle poll each time, but we can put something on the calendar hopefully each month for, you know, like the third Thursday or something like that, that we can all plan on and just have it as a ongoing commitment. And then we'll adjourn. So the first thing I have as far as housekeeping items go, Rebecca alerted me of this last night, although I was aware. There's some hubbub, I understand, about the county taking an interest in potentially purchasing the Red Fox Motel. Just by raise of hand, who all's heard about that potential so far? Okay, so mostly everyone. Kim, the county has a Department of Human Health and something services. It's 3 H's. And part
Housing.
of housing, thank you, that's appropriate to this conversation. Housing, Human and Health Services. I probably have the order wrong there. And so they have a housing authority, and they own properties throughout the county that they manage and lease to low-income families, families in transition. And there's a unique opportunity right now through the state of Oregon. They've allocated some monies through something they're calling Project Turnkey, which would potentially award millions of dollars to some governmental entity to buy and manage specifically hotel motel properties and convert them into either or, I believe, transitional housing for those experiencing homelessness or houselessness, and then also long-term housing for low-income families. So affordable housing with a capital A, in the sense that it's subsidized. So they were originally looking at a property in Milwaukee, the Econo Lodge on 99. And I'm not sure how or why, but those discussions broke down. And they have actually had an ongoing conversation with the owners of the Red Fox Motel for probably going on a couple of years now. But then when this funding became available through the state, they decided, well, let's look first at this Econo Lodge. When that didn't work out, they refocused some energy on picking up talks with the Red Fox Motel again. Pamplin picked that up and ran it, and then the rumors started flying locally and all sorts of hysteria ensued, it sounds like. I want to, well, first let me tell you that because of the quick and pretty severe backlash that the county has received, it looks like they are probably going to back away from this opportunity, and it's not going to materialize. But this would be the type of thing that this commission should discuss and make perhaps not recommendations, but provide input back to the city council as far as how downtown Estacada would view something like this. it's a little bit unique in the sense that it's the county coming in and not the city undertaking a project of its own. But nonetheless, it'd be an appropriate thing for this group to advise on. So what I wanted to share, I can pull it up here, is an email of what this potentially would have been. I think people heard homeless shelter and then the imagination just runs wild for people and the fear runs wild. But here's a summary of what the county had intended. And this is from the director of that H3S department at the county. The opportunity is initially the motel could become a transitional shelter for residents of Estacada and other nearby towns such as Sandy and Molalla. The first priority for access would be to shelter residents impacted by wildfire. So I guess the one thing I'll point out is that even though this would be used for transitional housing initially, it would not be like an open invitation, come to Estacada, we have a homeless shelter, and so there would be some sort of inundation of people looking for housing. These would be people that the county are already working with and that have case files for, and they would be placed here because of their specific circumstances. The second priority for access would be for rural residents impacted in a way that has resulted in them becoming homeless, such as through job loss due to COVID closures. She goes on, transitional shelter has a strong staffing presence, and the intention is to provide permanent housing ASAP for those needing this temporary assistance. So in other words, there would be staff on site actively working with these impacted families to transition to something more permanent and stable. Down the road in a few years, the property could be used to develop workforce housing. This type of housing is affordable to households earning 60% of area median income. She goes on to explain what that means. And the planning process for this future workforce housing development would involve the community and align with all your planning efforts, and we would like to be a partner in this work. So they did have a lot of good intentions for working directly with the community to develop the long-term vision for the property and how it could help both in the short term and in the long term. But again, the news of this kind of leaked in the wrong way, and the timing was very rushed, and the county acknowledged that as well. So I just spoke to their director this morning, and it sounds like because of this very, very fast moving timeline and the fact that the news made it to the public before they could get in front of it and try and address concerns proactively, their recommendation to the county commission in their meeting this morning will be to back away from the deal. I kind of think that that's the recommendation they will take, but ultimately it will be the county commission that kind of decides whether or not they'll continue pursuing or not. But it sounds like the mayor is not supportive of the project, and there's concern throughout the community as well. Justin, I don't know where you or the rest of the city council stands, but that may be irrelevant if they go ahead and just back away from it. So
concerned.
So anyway, I guess I just wanted this group to be aware if they were going to go ahead and move forward. I think it would be, again, appropriate for this commission to sort of provide some comments and feedback to the city council. But anything anyone wants to share or ask right now before we kind of leave that? I thought we would have a more robust discussion, but since I found out this morning that they're going to walk away from it, there's probably not much discussion to have.
I think that when we get a definitive on that, someone, probably from the city or county, needs to get onto the Estacada pages and alert the community that it's not going to happen, because people are pretty fired up. I know that there's meetings planned for next week, just to like town hall, so everybody can get on the same page, which I think is great. But you know, if this is dead in the water, you know, get that info out sooner rather than later so people can cool their jets a little bit.
Yeah, thank you for that. So I'll follow up with my contact over there this afternoon and see what decision was made, and then we can get that out through our channels. So yeah, it just moved really quickly, and they did not really get in front of concerns, and so then, you know, this is what happens, unfortunately.
And can I just also offer a little bit of a counter perspective? You know, working at the food bank, especially, houselessness is a huge issue out here. And I think that it's not necessarily in our forefront of our, you know, it's more invisible out here than it is in urban settings. And I think that's important to notice. And I think that, you know, Red Fox is already being utilized for low income housing.
Correct.
And there's a lot less oversight there than there would be if this were to happen. And there could be a lot more restorative justice and, you know, advocates working with these individuals if we were to have something like this. So whether this happens in Estacada or somewhere close by, there's a huge need.
Yeah. Yeah, and that was, I think, what they had hoped to come to the council and the community with proactively before the news sort of broke, is to be able to talk about what the facility would be, what it would not be. You know, like you mentioned, that there would be a full-time staffing presence, wraparound services for the folks that would be placed there, that it's not just, like I said, kind of an open invitation for anyone and everyone in the whole Portland area to come try and crash at the Estacada Red Fox Motel. That's not what it was going to be, but I think that's what people envisioned. So, yeah, I appreciate that perspective, Jenny. Sorry, go ahead.
I think that the county commissioners are having a meeting at 10 o'clock today. Is that right?
That's correct.
That any of us could join if we wanted to.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay, so I guess in the interest of time, we'll leave that. And yes, when there's a decision, I will let you all know what that is, as well as the community. Let's see here. The grant application for 344 Southeast Main Street. I guess who all had a chance to peek at that? Okay. So a few. The council will be reviewing that application again with more detail from the applicant, which I just received yesterday on their meeting of February 8th. I don't think we will meet again before February 8th. So for those who had a chance to peek at it, maybe form an initial opinion or have questions, would you like to ask those or just share your sentiments generally so that we might be able to bring those back to the council as they consider it?
Is this the same property that Janice Keller remodeled, gosh, probably 15 years ago?
I don't know if I know that name. During the 5 years I've been with the city, it's changed hands a few times.
It's already a two-story building, and it's an apartment upstairs.
No, this is on Main Street, and it's got that red false front. It's right by Paul's office and True Value.
Okay. Okay.
It used to be the Lentz Auto.
Yeah, got it.
Oh, okay.
Thank you.
So the proposal is to demolish and build new rather than convert what's there. They would take it to the dirt. So I guess I'll ask a more specific question rather than just what are your thoughts. Is there anyone that feels strongly that this is a potentially poor use of urban renewal funds, or for some reason opposes the idea of urban renewal financially contributing toward a new mixed use project on Main Street?
I'm kind of concerned with the return on investment for that money. It's a lot of money. I love the idea that they're putting retail down there, but I do think in the current climate for anyone starting a business, running a business, that perhaps one space at the front could be better utilized as two small spaces. We have so many small business owners out here, and a lot that I've spoken to would love the opportunity to jump at a storefront, but the ones that are currently available are either too big or too expensive. And so I do think if they were able to work with the city, and perhaps a portion of that money that's donated is gifted back in the form of them providing cheaper space to makers or small businesses. I mean, I would be all for that.
Okay. I go back and listen to these recordings and do the minutes, and so I'll make sure to note that. So dividing the space and potentially subsidizing the lease to make it more affordable.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, so the commentary I provided in the staff report, I guess I can also share here. As far as urban renewal projects go, this is probably pretty high up there as far as like what a good project is. It has the potential to buoy the tax rolls in the sense that a property that's currently vacant and diminishing in value, decreasing in value, would now be new development and new assessed value on the tax rolls. And I guess we're not going to get into the nitty gritty of urban renewal today, but that's one of the core goals of urban renewal, is to build the tax base in the focus area. So it's strong from that perspective. The fact that it adds housing, the fact that it adds new commercial space, the fact that it's on Main Street, which is an area that could benefit from more activity. These are all strengths for the project, and they're asking for quite a bit of money. I guess the philosophical question would be, if you took that same money and spread it across new windows or awnings or paint across 20 other buildings, would that have more of an impact than this one project? I don't know the answer to that, but that's kind of that's the trade-off that the Urban Renewal Board will have to grapple with, because if they fund this project, that will mean that future years, probably at the end of our urban renewal period, which is ending in 2027, maybe 2026 and 2027 would not have a grant cycle, because this project would require so much funding.
So I don't want to interrupt you, Matt.
No,
can
I'm
I
done.
jump in? Okay.
Yeah.
So I guess that's kind of my thinking too, is like the difference between investing such a huge chunk in one project versus spreading it out over many projects. And I think that this is a great project. I would be supportive of this project. I think that it's a significant, first sort of perspective of our town. It's our first impression, I should say. And so I think that, there's a few sore spots in our town that would be a great spots to invest in and improve. I just wonder, like, as far as what are all the projects that the urban renewal money has gone to? Can we access those and kind of review and see what those projects are? I'm grateful that I was able to use some of those funds when I first bought the bakery and, put a $15,000 parking lot in, and that's a huge improvement for my property. But I wonder about, redoing the paint on an outside of a building that's actually still new. Seems like sort of a misuse of funds when we could be renovating these things that really need improvements.
Yeah, the past awards are definitely public information. Some of them are on the city's website, but I haven't updated that in a while, and so it's probably a little bit stale. But the quick rundown would be that most awards have gone to pretty incremental type improvements on buildings. New awnings, paint, is a popular one. There was some parking resurfacing at behind the Trails building, as well as at Harmony. Then the buildings, I think, that we kind of rattled off and named last meeting. So like Clackamas River Outfitters' new home over there, where the building that Yo Treats is in, there was a contribution significant there. Taylor and Julie's new home there, that was an urban renewal project that was done through the owner who occupies the back of the building. So they're sprinkled around, and most of them have been comparatively small. I think the largest grant award we've made so far was toward the building that the Casadero restaurant occupies. It got a roof a few years back, and that had an urban renewal contribution. I want to say it was about $40,000. Could be, my memory is a little bit foggy on that one, but that was probably the largest grant that's been made. So this would be outside of the normal parameters. But I'll share, I went on an urban renewal tour in Portland. They have an entire urban renewal agency with, dozens of staff people. It's called Prosper Portland. And they did a tour, I think it was in 2019, and talked about some of their projects and some of their urban renewal areas. And of course, the scale and magnitude of what they do there is orders of magnitude higher than what we're doing in Estacada. And that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. You've got very different situations. But I did ask a question of one of their main project managers that develops these projects with private sector partners. And I said, when you're working in a new urban renewal area where there is this pattern of disinvestment in the past, and it maybe is not an area where private investors are interested in putting their money, what type of percentages are you looking at in terms of subsidies in order to make a private developer interested in a project? And of course, it's hard to answer that question because it's a range. But he said subsidizing a project to the tune of up to about 25% is not unheard of in areas where there is a long-standing pattern of disinvestment. So this particular applicant is asking for basically $250,000 toward a project that's $1.25-ish million. So they're right in there in that range of what a reasonable urban renewal subsidy might be for a mixed-use project like this. It's a lot of money, don't get me wrong, but it's also not completely outside reasonability. So that's just a little extra information for you. So if there's anything else anyone has to say about this, you're welcome to share that with me and I can pass it on to council. You can email Justin directly. You can attend the meeting and provide public comment, but is there anything that this group otherwise would have me bring back other than Rebecca's comments about potentially the smaller spaces and affordable leases?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Okay. Well, we will set that aside then. And then finally, as far as housekeeping goes, just remind everyone, Melanie sent something out a couple of days ago, or maybe it was just yesterday, letting this commission and others know that there is diversity, equity, and inclusion training being made available by the city. And we're asking the city council and commissioners like you to attend. It's 3 Monday nights in February and March. 6 to 8 p.m. And I think all the information is in the email, but just wanted to remind everyone of that. I think the first session is Monday at 6 p.m. So it's short notice, but please attend if you can.
I don't know if I received that email. Was that sent to us directly?
Yeah, I can, I'll make a note and see if Melanie had the right address. Is the address you prefer the Hellickburn Farm address?
It's the only address.
Okay. Okay.
Everything happens there.
Okay. So I did see that she had addressed the DEC in the email, but I didn't double check to make sure that the email addresses were actually there. So.
I'm not saying it didn't arrive. It might be in my spam folder. I have a billion spam, so.
That is possible. And I guess we'll welcome a guest. Looks like Vicky has joined us. Hello, Vicky. Oh, maybe not. Okay, so check your email for that. If for some reason it didn't come through, I'll try and get that out to everyone. The why behind that is due to some of the I guess, shall we say, tension that occurred this past summer, and the strong urging from the community that the city staff, as well as elected and appointed leaders, get some professional training about diversity, equity, and inclusion, and what that looks like in a public management and governance application. And so that's what this will be, and that's the why behind it. The minutes. Does everyone have a copy of the minutes from last meeting? So if you've had a chance to peek at those, all we need there is a motion to approve or to amend, whatever is appropriate.
Approve.
Okay, Rebecca moves to approve as written. Is there a second? Kim motions. Yes. Or,
back and forth, I second.
yeah, excuse me. Kim seconds the motion is what I meant to say. Okay, so all in favor to approve as written the minutes from the 18th. Say aye.
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 Any opposed?
Aye.
Okay, so we'll note that in the minutes, unanimous approval of the minutes as written. Okay, moving right along. So we will jump then into the meat of this meeting. Hopefully everyone has gotten somewhat familiar with the committee structure, the 4 points of the Main Street approach, either from our discussion last meeting or from any homework that you did. So I guess I'll open this up and say that we need leadership at these committees. And so the way it often works, although it doesn't have to be this way, is that each of the 4 committees will be chaired by some person who is a member of this commission. So if you're particularly interested in design, for example, then you might be a commissioner on this commission, but then you might chair the design committee and sort of lead their meetings, which are usually, again, about once monthly. So where do your interests lie? Does anyone want to chime in and say, hey, I'm really interested in X, Y, or Z? Rebecca says yes.
Promotions, please.
Okay. So I'm gonna just scribble.
And also, I kind of thought that Kim might be really good at that as well because of your background. So I don't want to step on your toes if that was your jam.
No, I would say I was also very interested in the promotions committee, but I would love to just take your lead and I could follow as like vice chair or something. Just I feel like I'm so new to any of these commissions, committees, the way the whole city works. So just getting my toes wet. You sound like you've been here for a while and know what's going on. So it'd be nice to just follow the lead on some things. So
I'm flattered, but
I was actually,
Okay.
I was thinking, Rebecca, that you'd be such a good fit for economic vitality with your passport idea and everything. But I'm sure there's crossover between all of these things, really. So, but that's just what a note I made was that would be a good fit for you. But I personally was kind of drawn to design because of the piece of people-centered public spaces and, inclusivity. And I will also just add that I'm planning to start a farmer's market in my parking lot this summer. And so that's kind of where my mind kind of went to with that.
So Jenny, on that note, and I don't want to derail us here, so I apologize, but would that farmer's market be on a different day from the one that they typically do uptown?
Yeah, it'd be Wednesday evenings.
Okay, got it.
Mm-hmm.
Julie, were there any of the 4 committees that jumped out at you?
And I'll be honest, I'm trying to look for
Oh,
these
you're okay.
on my email. And I'm just kind of in the same boat, just kind of getting my toes wet. So I'm really open to anywhere where there's a need for it. I'm not too picky.
Okay. Yeah, and so just by way of review, there's promotions, which deals primarily with marketing the downtown area and events.
Okay.
There's design, which, as Jenny mentioned, deals a lot with creating an inclusive environment, but it's also just about enhancing aesthetics downtown. And for example, like maybe designing some sort of program that would get shopkeepers all on the same page in terms of maybe doing some sort of, holiday theme in their windows, or, it could be all sorts of things, or encouraging blade signs downtown. There's all sorts of different ways that design can go, but it deals a lot with aesthetics and function of downtown. Economic vitality is basically your business development arm of the committee. So it's going to look at what the business needs are in terms of maybe, a general merchandise store is needed. So how would we make that happen? Is there a storefront that's suitable for it? Could we identify an operator? They could also survey businesses and try and understand what's needed downtown, or what they'd like to see more of or less of, in terms of programming or in terms of anything. Just keeping that relationship with businesses and trying to help build commerce within the downtown. And then organization, I think I mentioned this last meeting, but we haven't historically had a formal organization committee. But that isn't to say that we don't need one, but organization would be largely dealing with outbound communications to the community. So trying to keep the community aware of what downtown is doing. So not necessarily marketing, but more like PR.
Okay.
Volunteer recruitment and volunteer organization would be also something that organization committee deals with.
I think out of those 4, my first one would be design, of course.
Okay. Anyone excited about economic vitality? All right, Brenda. And we do have other volunteers that are not on this meeting that have historically attended these meetings of the committee. So the promotions committee has been our most active and largest committee. I think when they're really ramping up for an event, sometimes there could be a dozen people, committee members at a meeting. So again, it's not just this group on this call. There's other people that have been involved with downtown in the past, but maybe just not at that like leadership level. They're helping support and execute the programs and events. So maybe for now, we will leave it such that the organization, matters pertaining to the organization committee, maybe we deal with here at the commission level, but then we retain 3 active other committees with economic vitality, design, and promotions. Brenda, Paul Strobel, I think, is still going to remain active with economic vitality. Bruce, and then of course I usually sit in on those meetings. And it would be great, I think, to have maybe Brent or someone from the Chamber of Commerce be on that committee as well to bridge that connection. That might be good for Connie, actually, because Connie, I think, just joined the chamber board as well. So, okay. Well,
Matt, really quick question. Are we able to just serve on multiple committees if we have the time and the interest? Because I would also be interested in the economic vitality committee to play some form of role in that. But
Absolutely. So as much as your time and desire allows for, you could be active on any or all of the committees. It might be good to have leadership of those committees be different, but you could certainly serve on any or all and get involved there. So I think what I'll do then, based on this, is start to reach out to those committees then individually, and when I say individually, I guess I mean individual groups. So I'll tap into the people who have volunteered in the past and try and start an email conversation about when we can start getting these committees meeting again. Normally they meet about once a month, but 2020 being what it was, and then with our staff transition, Nancy's retirement, the committees just didn't really meet for like the last half of 2020. So it would be good to get those going again and meeting, even if virtually, because I know you all want one more Zoom call to get on. Chair and vice chair, this is where it gets awkward, I guess, but does anyone in the room here feel like they would like to step into that leadership role? And it really just mainly means running these meetings and helping me to plan the agenda for these meetings. It's not a whole lot beyond that. Keeping the meetings moving in the right direction.
I think Rebecca's been very, vocal and shown some leadership so far. I mean,
I hear a nomination.
Yes.
I second that nomination.
Rebecca, would you be okay with that? Could you entertain the idea?
Yeah, what's another project?
Like I said, hopefully it's pretty minimal commitment. It's just kind of being the boss at these meetings and making sure we all stay on track and don't yammer about something for too long. I'm
the one that yammers about the things. So.
I don't know. You can tell me, Matt. That's
all right. I'll do it.
Okay. And then the vice chair would mainly be just someone that could step in Rebecca's absence. And then the thought would be that vice chair would potentially, if circumstances allow for it, that vice chair would become a chair at some point in the future. Sort of like the chair in training, although, like I said, there's not a lot to be trained for here. Any takers? So think about that one.
Kim.
I said, I'm willing to, step up and give it a go. So again, like I said, I'm trying to get myself oriented. So I was just, if there were any other eager people willing to take the lead, I was willing to follow, but I'm also happy to be vice chair as well. So.
Okay.
That doesn't sound very confident, does it?
That's okay. I kind of knew this was going to be a little bit of an awkward conversation because no one wants to nominate themselves and say, I want to be the dictator or whatever, because that's awkward. But I'm glad that we've got two willing bodies anyway. So what I hear is, well, let me ask for a motion. The discussion has been that Rebecca would be chair with Kim as vice chair. Would anyone like to so move?
I second that motion.
Well, so
Thanks,
Julie, are you making the motion?
Oh, am I? I'm sorry. I guess I am. Yes, I am. I'm making a motion to have.
And I'll second it.
Thank you.
Okay. Noted. Okay, so the motion on the table is to appoint Rebecca as chair with Kim as vice chair. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. And by the way, for these meetings, the bylaws or the ordinance that creates this commission states that a quorum is just a majority. So if we have 4 people in attendance, then we can hold a legal meeting. But the meetings that we hold are public, and they will follow public meeting laws. And so even though we're a little bit sort of jocular and informal here, which is totally fine, we still need to do things like make motions and hold votes and make sure we have a legal quorum. When we communicate through email as well, I can email all of you, but when you all, if you have a question or a concern or want to email the group about X, Y, or Z, you would send that directly to me rather than to reply all to the entire group. They've determined in the state of Oregon that email communications constitute a meeting. And so if you have everyone on an email chain, you're holding an illegal and unpublicized meeting, technically. I don't know that there's any consequence for that, but it's a no-no. And so we just want to try and keep all of our board level communications in an environment like this one, where it's publicized and anyone is there to be a part of it.
Matt, thank you for mentioning that. I think I've already been an offender of the reply all to the group. I did not know that.
Oh.
So moving forward, I will make sure it's just reply. So
yeah, and I'll say it's not, it's what they really are encouraging people to not do is have side discussions about topics that are going to lead to material decisions. Those are the things that you really want to avoid. But saying reply all, yes, I'll see you at the meeting is, you know, no one's going to get in trouble for that. Okay, so we're moving through this well, and we are now jumping to vision and priorities for 2021. I guess, Rebecca, maybe I should hand the reins to you.
Oh, great.
Do you want to wait until next meeting?
Yeah, I do.
Okay. So the three things that I'm hoping we can cover here are projects and programs that that are of interest. This is just discussion. We don't necessarily have to plan the rest of 2021 right in this moment, but let's start brainstorming and generating some discussion about what we feel like we can do to continue the revitalization effort in downtown Estacada. That could be physical projects, that could be more programmatic things. I think last time there was some discussion that began about a passport to try and encourage local shopping. So that's topic one. Topic two would be events. So Uncorked, Harvest Festival, Christmas tree lighting, and 4th of July parade. Which of these do we want to hang on to? Which of these do we want to maybe let go? Or do we want to hang on to all of them and change them? Do we want them to be this, this type of a conversation? And then we'll try and hopefully set some goals. It may be just the beginning of the conversation, but pretty soon we should try and have something that we can look back on at the end of the year and try and see if we, have accomplished what we set out to. Our goal shouldn't be to have 12 meetings, because meeting for the sake of meeting is not my priority, but what are we actually going to accomplish? So projects and programs discussion. Do we want to start with a discussion of the passport idea, or do we want to launch into something else?
Can I just ask real quick, is there the Easter parade and Easter egg hunt, is that not an event that this committee is involved with? Or I think of that as being a major event for our town as well.
Yeah, so there are some events that are just not put on by the DEC. So I believe the Easter egg hunt is a fire district initiative. And let's see, what else is there? I guess this isn't downtown, but like the Timber Festival, they have their own organization that's all dedicated exclusively to that event. There's probably others I'm forgetting, but yeah, these four are the ones that we are responsible for and have executed in the past.
And summer celebration, that's our arts commission, correct?
Yes, thank you. So that's another biggie that we are partners on and help support, but it's not a DEC event.
Wasn't the Best Damn Run at one time a downtown event?
Yeah, it was. and then kind of got spun off to its own thing. And now I think it's run by private race organizers. So let's talk. Are we going to talk events? Or are we going? We're on the topic of events, so let's just stay on events. So, Uncorked. Let's just take this one at a time. Feelings about Uncorked, Rebecca.
I have feelings on everything. I think Uncorked is great as a participant and then also as a vendor with my business. I do think that if we were a little bit more inclusive with beer and made that bigger, or not maybe bigger, but an equal draw, not just wine, because beer is a big deal out here. So I think that might end up drawing in more people, because wine just sometimes seems a little bit bougie, and cracking open a cold beer in the summer, everyone's doing that. So let's do it in a cool public event.
Don't forget cider.
What's that, cider?
Don't forget cider.
Yeah, that too.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I was going to second those thoughts. I was thinking about wine, and part of our conversation the last meeting was thinking about like the resources of Estacada and what we have to offer as a city. And I do not think of Estacada as a wine place, but I do know, we've got our cidery, if that's the correct term. We've got, Fearless Brewing. And so more of a focus on beer and cider as opposed to just wine seems more Estacada like than just wine focus.
Okay. And I think that's in line with a lot of the Main Street philosophy that we were talking about as well, right? Trying to build on assets you have, an identity that you have already, instead of trying to superimpose something that might not be a good fit. So, okay, so shifting some of the focus there. The one thought that I've had about it, I think it's been a really well done event, very classy, and I think that there's been heat a couple of the years that have made it less successful than it could have otherwise been. But other than that, I think the planning and the execution has been great. But there's been two things that I guess come to mind. One is that in spite of there being a fairly decent door fee to get in, it hasn't been particularly profitable. And profit isn't really our focus. We basically just need to cover our expenses and put on something that's of value to the community. We don't want to lose money. But I think as the promotion committee takes a look at Uncorked version 2.0, it behooves the group to try and figure out how to, make it financially viable, and potentially even fund some other projects and programs for DEC. That was the way it was envisioned, was to generate profits so that those profits could be rolled into supporting other programs and projects of the DEC. So that hasn't necessarily been the reality, I guess is what I'm saying. It hasn't lost money, but it's just been, kind of close.
That could just also be symptomatic of advertising or promotions. I think the last meeting we talked about the money that went towards it didn't really have much of a return on that investment. Whereas, Facebook promotions and really targeted ad campaigns, your return on that money is just massive.
Yeah, I think there's some of that's happened. Like there have been pretty big investments made in like advertising in like a wine magazine, for example, but maybe one person, comes out as a result. So not a real good ROI, but they tried it. Brenda?
I have to drop off. So
okay.
I'll catch you next time.
Okay. Thank you for joining. And then there were 4. So we still have our quorum, fortunately. And okay, so then the other thing that I wanted to say about Uncorked is, while I think that it's great, it's also not terribly dissimilar from 100 other events across the state, in the summertime. And maybe that's not a bad thing, but I think it'd be interesting to have a discussion about how it could be reworked in such a way that there is something unique or particularly appealing about it that might get residents to attend as well as visitors, visitors as well as residents, I guess I should say. I mean, everyone loves like live music and vendors and beer, but is there anything else that could be done to make it particularly interesting or unique? Just kind of a rhetorical question.
I think too, we also need to take into account that given this past year with the fire and then COVID in general, people are looking for any reason to get out and do anything. Just the pumpkin thing that we had up here was mind blowing. People were just busting at the seams to get out and to do anything. It didn't even really matter that there were pumpkins. They just needed a place to go.
Yeah. I think there's a lot of pent up energy and spending, frankly, as well from 2020. There have been a lot of families that have been impacted negatively because of COVID. I also think there are a lot of middle class families who have been squirreling away money they would have otherwise been spending during the year. So, okay, well, Uncorked, as well as these others, we can defer to the promotions committee itself for further discussion, but I think we want to think more high level and thematically about these events. If they want to be, first of all, we want to keep it or do we want to let it go? I think the board should make that decision. And then secondly, is there some major change that you'd like to see happen? So Uncorked, I think we've got some good direction there. Sounds like the consensus is to keep it, but maybe tweak on it. Harvest Festival, open discussion on that. Keep it or let it go?
What do you guys usually do during the Harvest Festival?
Yeah.
So
I think that's a good example of no one even knows.
Yeah.
I don't
was
even
gonna-
know what it
I can
is.
say that I've never been to it. It's always one that I see promotions for, but always forget to put it in the calendar and get to it. So
okay, and that's totally fair. And I think attendance has been something that has been a struggle in the past. So here we go. You got evidence of it. The Harvest Festival is typically held on the little square at 3rd and Broadway. And it's just a harvest themed community gathering. So there's usually music. There has been a dunk tank in the past. There's been a few vendors. There, one year was alcohol. The other years there hasn't been. Excuse me. So they've been experimenting a little bit with that. There's pumpkin painting. There's some version of like a costume contest, but it's not usually a costume contest. It's maybe like a stroller decorating or like a pet dress up or something like that. I think there's been a petting zoo one year. You know, there's been an area for kids where there's a bunch of hay and there's candy in it that they got to go and find. So it's just a harvest themed community gathering there at the square.
Is it free admission?
Free. Yeah, I think all the events except are Uncorked are free. So marketing may be an area for improvement there. It's a challenge. It's been a challenge because weather is always a little bit unknown that time of year as well. And the first year they did Harvest Festival, it was closer to Halloween, but then the past couple of years they've held it at the end of September instead in order to try and increase the likelihood of it not being completely soggy. So, you know, Rob, our last chairperson, he always asked a good question, and that was usually if X, Y, or Z went away, or if even this organization went away tomorrow, would anyone notice? Harvest Festival, I think, is one of those events right now in its current state is maybe one of those that if it went away, very few people would maybe notice. So that begs the question, do we keep it or do we do it again and do it right and try and make sure that it's something that people remember and want to be at?
I personally feel that type of event When you're a family looking for that type of experience, you're going to a farm. I want to go to where the pumpkins are growing. I want to get my boots muddy. I'm expecting it to be cold and rainy. It's just part of, the seasonal charm. I don't necessarily think, and I don't want to talk for everybody here, but I don't really think, oh, it's harvest time, let's go to the city center and get a pumpkin. It just doesn't seem like it meshes well. Not that you couldn't put advertising time and dollars into it and maybe turn it around, but I think that the time spent on that could be better served on 4th of July or Christmas, but that's just me.
Okay. So I don't have a strong opinion about it, and ultimately it's your decision. Jenny, were you going to say something?
I think, yeah, it seems redundant because we're surrounded by farms and people are going to farms. I think the benefit of it is it comes to those who have barriers for getting to farms or who can't afford to go to a farm. But I think that serves a small portion of the population. I think it's in our best interest probably to help support our surrounding farms.
Okay. So Christmas tree lighting, I anticipate will continue. That's mainly been the city anyhow. DEC has only been a little bit involved with that. And then 4th of July parade, we're required in our ordinance to do. So I think that will continue on as well. So if Harvest Festival maybe then is set aside, I guess maybe in this meeting, but then again, maybe in another one, since we're running a little short on time. I think it'd be interesting to have a discussion about what other event we could design that kind of thinks outside the box and just kind of think big, I guess. I'll lob one idea out there, and this was not my idea. I won't take credit for it, if it's good or bad. Northwest Technologies, which is one of our biggest employers in the city, they're in the industrial campus. They have about 100 employees, and they do metals manufacturing. They had actually come to the city with the idea of trying to organize a soapbox derby down the hill into downtown.
Ooh, fun.
And although I know that there is a soapbox derby event in Portland, I think on Mount Tabor, I think having something like that out here it's a straight course, it's an awesome hill, it could end downtown, it would be unique, and I think potentially appealing to really draw both residents and visitors. I thought that was a cool idea. Nothing was done with it, but it might be something worthy of discussion. And if there are other ideas, let's have those too.
I think that's a
I
fabulous
vote yes.
idea. Yeah, that's fun. Great idea.
I like that idea too. Can I backtrack a little bit? When you mentioned, you kind of skimmed over the Christmas tree lighting. When I was looking at the different events, I was thinking about, most of the events that were involved with draw tourism, and that feels like a big part of what this committee's for. And I don't think that one does. So it seems kind of interesting to me that that's one of the events that we are involved with. I don't see that being a tourism draw. That's more of a tradition, for the community. It's not necessarily super inclusive. So of course that's an issue for me as well. So just wanted to point that out.
Yeah, I think with the Christmas tree lighting, well, with our purpose in general, I agree that tourism is a frequent discussion, and I know I keep mentioning visitors when I'm mentioning these events, but I think our first objective actually really ought to be creating a downtown that is meaningful to residents and is home and welcoming to residents and has the things and the events and the businesses and the feeling in the air that residents want. And that will be like a draw in and of itself to visitors when they come. But I guess what I'm trying to say is priority number one should really be doing what we do for the residents of Estacada. And if visitors come because they hear Estacada's got a cool downtown and they have cool events, that's even better. As far as the Christmas tree event itself, yeah, I think it's just kind of a tradition of the city that's gonna continue on.
Well, there's nothing that says that you couldn't have like a tandem event or an event that started earlier in the day that then ended around the time that the Christmas tree lighting happened. I mean, we could definitely have a holiday market, especially if we lose Harvest Festival. Just have a really cool, in the middle of the road, a bunch of vendors, whether they're local or from surrounding areas, just have a cool, quaint holiday market, get hot cocoa, mulled cider, all kinds of those things. And then that's a great way for tourists or locals to then come and support local makers or businesses. And then it ends. And if you want to go home and not participate in the Christmas tree lighting, no biggie. And if you do, you're pumped because you're already down there and then you're going to go see Santa and the tree.
Yeah. So I like that. Maybe
Yeah,
there's
I like that too.
potential to expand upon it so it isn't just the Christmas tree lighting, but that there are other things that are more welcoming and inclusive to other folks. Yeah, so good discussion and potential for promotions committee to work with on that one. The other thing that I'll say before we leave events is that I think I want to say this the right way. Perception is reality, I think, and that applies to like all sorts of things in life, unfortunately. I think the events that we do, we really want to do well, because if you don't, then the perception that lingers is one that has a lasting negative impact. Less likely to come to the next event, more likely to form a negative opinion about DEC or about Estacada generally if they happen to be from downtown. So I like the emphasis on quality over quantity.
Mm-hmm.
Less is more.
Yeah. That said, one other area where I think DEC could be thinking more actively is with these events, and then on especially non-event days, how are we reaching people and encouraging them to be downtown and to spend money downtown? That's I think something that's lacked in years past with events is how do we partner with businesses to make sure that they have their door propped open and their A-frame sign out front and their samples, I realize there's not a ton of retail downtown, but there are opportunities for brick and mortar businesses downtown to be more active in our events. And in the past, mainly it's just been doors closed, lights out, the streets closed, like closed for business. And I think we need to change that dynamic. Event days should be seen as some of the most profitable days for downtown businesses rather than close the door, lights out. So how do we form that partnership with businesses, get their buy-in, and structure these events so that they're conducive to people visiting and spending money in the businesses while they're at the event downtown. Goals. This is a tougher one, I think. One we could potentially spend a bunch of time with, or maybe not as much, but any ideas that come to mind, or should we revisit this one next time? I guess so areas where we might want to set goals, for example, may be on financially. Do we want to target a certain amount that would fund a certain program or project that we have in mind? So there might be a financial aspect to our goals. We might have attendance goals for event X, Y, or Z, whatever it happens to be. We may have goals that pertain more to I don't know, I think that a theme that is recurring here, but I think it's a good thing, is inclusivity. So to what degree have we structured our activities so that they're more inclusive? That one's probably harder to put in concrete terms, but I think it could be done. Let me put some thought into specific categories that we could set goals for, and then maybe we'll do that next meeting, especially because time is getting short. But I don't want to table that if anyone has anything they want to bring forward right now. Okay. At the bottom of your agenda is the current mission. So I'm moving on now to mission, vision, values, and brand. The mission is at the bottom of the agenda and the logo is at the top. For those who have a marketing and branding eye, and I know that that's most of you or all of you, feelings, share without reservation. Anyone have thoughts? Or are we looking for the agenda?
Matt, where is the, can you,
Oh, I'll share my
yeah, well, I'm
screen.
looking for the little logo. Thank you.
Oh, here we go. I'm gonna share. Okay. So here's the logo.
Okay.
Sorry, I, in my delusional mind, I thought you all had the agenda sitting in front of you.
What's the history of
have
our logo? So when was it created and who created it?
So the history is short. So the DEC became the DEC in 2018. It was the Estacada Development Association, and they had a different logo. And then when it became the Downtown Estacada Commission, this was developed. The initial concept was done by Mary Whitney. And then I kind of tweaked on it, and then the commission approved the current iteration that you see right there. I have no special attachment to it. I always feel like a brand is made more by a person's experience with the actual business than it is the logo, but logos are important as well. So there's not a whole lot of thought that went into it. There wasn't a lengthy iterative design process. It was just kind of a concept that bubbled up. Everyone kind of liked it. We tweaked it a little bit, and then here it is.
I mean, it's a logo. It doesn't exactly scream like, ooh, I'm so excited to do whatever that logo wants me to do.
Yeah.
I mean, how nitty gritty do you want to get? I think the colors should probably be green because everything surrounding us is green. You know, local pride and school colors, all of that. I mean, you could make an argument to change it. You could make an argument to keep it.
Okay. Yeah, the colors are from the city's color palette that we have through our main branding, the city's branding, but that it doesn't have to stay that way. But that's just the rationale for why the colors are what they are. Well, okay. Do we want to go through the process of trying to rebrand, knowing that we'd be doing it on a shoestring budget?
No.
Is anyone interested in that, or do we want to continue with what we've got?
I think that's a thing that could happen, like shelve it. Like, let's get this other stuff red hot and going. And then like, this is whatever.
Okay. I tend
Yeah.
to agree. Sorry, go ahead. Who was going to say something?
Oh, I feel pretty impartial about it. I think it's not very exciting. It's not downtown. And also like, who cares? You know, I mean, the work we do is more important than our logo, I think.
Yeah.
Really.
100% agree with that.
Yeah.
Yeah. I tend to agree as well. I'll I'll maybe see if I can pull some other logos from other downtowns at some point in the next year, and we can leave the conversation if we want to. But I tend to agree that there are more important matters right now. The vision, or the mission, excuse me, is down here: to build a vibrant downtown at the heart of the community, showcasing Estacada's history, events, arts, revitalization, and trade. And those words were selected because those are a lot of our focus, but also because they spell H-E-A-R-T, heart.
Hey, it does.
Pat on the back.
So
I'm not the only one that didn't realize that, am I?
No.
Okay, thank God.
I think the reason why it's unclear is because in the past, in a previous iteration, it was more spelled out, like maybe they were like vertical or something like that. I can't remember, but yeah, it's not immediately obvious. I don't know that it needs to be, but is this something that we would want to revisit at the same time as the logo, or do we want to give ourselves some more concrete definition out of the gate?
I don't think it has any bearing on anything that we're going to be doing.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's as clear as it can get as far as a mission statement's concerned. And like you were saying in the last meeting, I mean, a mission statement only goes, it's only exciting for the first few days, and then we're on to the bigger, better, more important things. So,
and it only is exciting to us for about 5 minutes. No one in town cares about the logo or what the mission is. Nobody knows it. If you talk to 10 people downtown, no one would have a clue or care.
Yeah. I will say that the mission and vision and stuff, like, I agree 100%. As far as the logo goes, I do hope that in time there could be like, little cute banners on the corners that say Downtown Estacada, and it is a logo that we're proud of and that locals like as well. But that's for the future, perhaps.
Yeah.
Okay, well, then the mission is, I think the consensus is good enough, and we'll continue with that. As far as the vision goes, I think that will come out through our goals. But I do think we want to be thinking, even if we don't spend a bunch of time trying to put it into exact words, we should at least try and figure out where are we trying to go. I mean, putting on cool events and doing other programs that get people downtown more often and spending more money downtown, those are great. Those are things we should be doing. But what is the longer term vision for downtown? So I guess think about that. I think that's something that we could table as well. But I do think that as we have more of these meetings, we need something to measure our activities against. Is this helping us to realize our vision? Is this helping us to accomplish the goals that we set? Or is this a distraction that's really non-essential? I guess if I'm going to advocate for any of these things, logo, mission, vision, values, I'd probably say we need some sort of vision, but let's think on that and revisit it. But yeah, what are we trying to accomplish exactly on a longer term schedule?
I think being that we're all so new to this group, and that you've really kind of reckoned with the participants in this group a little bit this year, I think that's kind of part of maybe what our vision and our goals are, is to kind of be more innovative and creative rather than like sustaining what's always been. Yeah. And I think that's kind of a shift for us for this committee this year. And that's exciting. But yeah, I guess I'll leave it at that.
Okay. Well, I think that ought to be captured in the vision. I like that, contrasting newness and innovation with just sustaining what always has been. I think we can still respect and honor the past while making the future exciting as well. All right, well, scheduling our recurring meetings then. Are there days that are particularly bad for anyone? Let's start there, like eliminate. Monday through Friday, are there any particular days that are just no-goes? Okay, let me throw out there then Thursdays in the morning, since that's when we're meeting right now. Are Thursday mornings good for everyone?
Good for me.
That's good for me.
Okay. So let's see, today's the 28th. The third Thursday in February would be the 18th. So how does everyone feel about third Thursday?
I like it's got a good ring to it.
Okay, so we'll put down February 18th for our next meeting and plan on third Thursdays moving forward. So watch your email. I'm going to be trying to send out some communications, not only to you as commissioners, but then volunteers and organizing people into committees so we can get those fired up. And then anything else generally that needs to be communicated out, I will do that as well. Rebecca, I'll try and connect with you in between now and like the second week of February so we can kind of talk about what the agenda next meeting looks like.
Okay. Can you also email me that
the DEI invite?
that
Yeah, I will do that.
Perfect.
I've got a note here already.
To all of us, Matt? Or because
Yes.
I don't remember seeing it either. So
Oh, okay. Well, I'll definitely make sure that
I know,
Know what
I received it, so I know it at least, well, I guess it was sent to me, I know.
okay, I'm gonna check the emails for everyone then, because it sounds like there's a large majority that didn't get it. What was I saying? Oh, yeah, we'll connect and look at agenda for next meeting. So unless anyone has any other thoughts, it is almost February, and what do you all think what's the likelihood of there being an Uncorked in late June or when is it? Mid-June usually? I can't remember. No, it's early June.
I feel like that's going to be really hinged on what's happening with COVID. I mean, I realize that there's.
That's what I mean. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I think that big gatherings indoors are probably almost a year away.
Yeah.
But big gatherings outdoors, I don't know. The reason why I raised the question is that an Uncorked planning committee would already be normally starting to meet right now in anticipation of a June event. So we'll have to keep an eye on that and probably decide by the end of our next meeting whether or not we're going to ramp up and try and plan an event or if this one will be canceled as well.
I do personally feel, just at the rate everything has been going, that it's probably not going to happen. And if it does with us, it might be a little ramshackled at the last minute. And I think that our time might be best suited for things happening in the fall, especially if we want to sort of get on the agenda a holiday festival, which, you know, outside, I think towards the end of the year, we could really dial that up because there's so many small businesses now that especially the second half towards the end of the year are going to be jumping at the chance to get their brand or products into people's hands. It's a holiday season. I just think that that could really be a big thing.
Okay. Yeah, and we could do the soapbox derby in the fall and advertise for the winter event. Joking and serious simultaneously. Yeah, we'll have to just watch and see how things progress, or don't, as the case may be. Well, thank you for joining this meeting. We're adjourning 4 minutes early. And if I don't see any of you sooner, I will see you on February 18th.
Third Thursdays.
Third Thursday. Okay. Have a good day and weekend, everyone.
Great.
See you.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Bye.
everyone.
See you guys later.